As per usual on a Wednesday, it is the one and only Hoppers, and good evening to my trusted psychic, Wojciech. Good evening, Wojciech, how's it going?
Hello guys, exciting to be back in F3. We have the round 10, which is Chinese Grand Prix. That's really classic, isn't it?
It is, mate, indeed, and it's going to be very interesting because I believe the weather forecast is going to be very interesting. I'm not too sure exactly what it's going to be as of yet, but I believe in a couple of moments we'll soon find out, and obviously there is going to be a lot of stuff ongoing. The title could be easily decided tonight. It wasn't decided at Paul Ricard because of uncertainty with, obviously, you got Livenwall, who was obviously trying to chase down the likes of JSP and Posty, but obviously, you know, Posty managed to get the win, and obviously JSP managed to get a podium, and obviously Livenwall managed to get third. But tonight Livenwall is up for the title, and there is a number of ways he can do it, and also the strategies are going to be very interesting as well, especially around here, because going into turn number 1 and 2 it can be very tight and narrow. But I'm sure, Wojciech, you can give me a bit of background about the Shanghai circuit.
Of course, you pretty much nailed the characteristic about the circuit. The weather can play a big role here, because we often saw in previous races in Shanghai a lot of twists in weather from dry to wet and backwards. So this can be really major role in the race. And of course, the strategy can be changed. In a lot of occasions, it's 1 second decision, because you always need to react on the situation happening in the race, changing the weather, some damage and stuff like the safety car and stuff like that. And last night, which I've been doing commentating with Malc in F2, we saw differences in strategies. Someone trying to do the quality not on softs but on mediums, which can be really interesting, because the mediums last really long comparing to the softs. And the main pain point in China is left front, and I mean in the tire situation. So yeah, this could be really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Going into, obviously, you know, this is obviously with three rounds left. Obviously, you know, you've got the Chinese Grand Prix, then you've got the Spanish Grand Prix, and then obviously Singapore. But the thing is, from what we've seen throughout the season, and yes, okay, I've kind of jumped into the comms box halfway through the season, but it's been spectacular. And I'll tell you this, if you don't mind giving us like a couple of likes, maybe 10 likes this evening, and obviously with the title very close to being decided, but there's going to be a number of ways, because Livenwall needs to try and match his pace from what he's had this season. Yes, he had third last time out, but he needs to try and steadily and improve that as time goes on. But there's a lot of different guys that will try and stop him from winning that title, but there is going to be very interesting and probably talking points throughout the race. And obviously Wojciech knows some of these guys pretty well. Obviously some of these guys are new to me, but it's going to be very close to see exactly what will happen in this 18-minute qualification.
Of course, you mentioned Livenwall, who's on extraordinary form, because he has, I believe, 6 podiums in a row. He can be 7 in here in Shanghai, and he has pretty good. It's pretty big difference in the points. He has 109 points, and the second one is Posty, who got 67 points. It's pretty big difference, but still it can be minimized. But on the other hand, we have pretty exciting situation in constructors, where the top 2 team, which is McLaren, whereas Livenwall, who's driving on his own without a teammate for this moment, competing with AlphaTauri, whereas Delange and Reshka, and the difference is only 4 points in constructors. So we can see pretty good battles at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's true, mate. And what I'm going to say here is, like, obviously it's getting now to the nitty gritty stuff, and you know there was a poll I believe on Twitter saying who's going to win the constructors, whether it's going to be AlphaTauri or McLaren. And yes, Liverpool being the sole McLaren, that's going to be a big task because he's got himself to race for, and like Delange and Reshka in the AlphaTauris, they've got both each other, and the strategy between them could play in the fact for the Constructors' Championship. But you know, it'll be very interesting to see exactly what can happen, and you know, it's going to be very interesting. I believe Matty has a new teammate for this evening. He's got Cody Lewis alongside him in that Red Bull Racing. So, you know, it's going to be very interesting to see what he can do. I believe he's making his debut in the series, but it's going to be very interesting. I believe Haas have come back with Daniel in the first of the Hasses. I don't know whether we've got the second one available this evening, but it is going to be very interesting, especially with what is going to happen in qualifying. But you know, will we see a safety car today? I don't know. It's going to be very difficult to try and judge that. But you know, some of the races we're commentating on, we're not really seeing a safety car, but it seems to me that if it gets towards turn number 1 and obviously turn number 2, there might be a slight contact, but we'll see about that, Wojciech.
Yeah, it's always first lap, first corner. It's really a special situation. It's always difficult to find your space between 18 drivers, 20 drivers, especially here in China. So we might see a safety car. China is really hard track to drive, especially the sector number 2. It's really tricky out there, and you can get caught really easy.
Yeah, I suppose you could, and obviously you've got that long straight at the back, which is going to, obviously it's a DRS zone, so that's going to be very interesting, breaking into the final corner. And obviously just going briefly into the real life Formula 1, obviously to get you right into pit lane, you've got to be very careful, because you don't want to do a Lewis Hamilton and end up retiring in the gravel trap like he did a while ago. I believe it was 2008. I'm not too sure. Just jog my memory. But you know, it'll be very interesting to see exactly what will happen. So obviously, Wojciech, you know, what do you think is going to happen this evening? Should I say?
Throughout the season, or from the moment I joined the commentary box in F3, we had a pretty tight midfield. So I'm looking for some pretty good battles in there. Of course, I wouldn't be surprised if in front we have so much battles. It's always interesting, to be honest. And here in Chinese Grand Prix, we talk about weather, we talk about DRS. The one thing we cannot forget is also the ERS deployment, which is really hard to manage. I believe in all races, but especially here in Shanghai. So this could play a major role.
Yeah, that's true, mate. The ERS, you know, we've seen it at Paul Ricard last week, that some of the guys were slowly running out, but they were trying so hard to try and, especially going down that long straight at Paul Ricard last week. You know, it just shows exactly, even though they've got the chicane in the middle, but that just shows exactly what can happen. But we'll just wait for qualifying to get underway. But you know, the probability, you know, we may see a lot of strategy this evening, and like you say, someone was doing it on the mediums last night. Well, that's pretty impressive itself. That probably just shows exactly what things can do. But you know, it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what will happen. But I'll just get up the whole spectator option. But yes, it's going to be very close, because everyone is going to be very close to. So I believe, from what we've heard, the forecast is going to be dry all the way through, and that is including the race. So it's going to be very interesting. The temperature may be nice and warm, but the tyres are a major factor, especially what you said, Wojciech, with it being on the left hand side. And yes, we are getting ready for a few guys to go out on their outlaps.
Of course, so my predictions of the weather gets wrong again, but I believe a lot of drivers welcomed this kind of dry qualifying, dry race. It's always, let's say, more stable.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, you know, obviously we're not doing a hard enough rain dance for it to rain, but it seems to me that most favours maybe certain people during, obviously, qualifying, as Cody gets it a bit wrong in the mid-sector there. But it's going to be very interesting, because looking at sector 3 going down that long straight and then obviously into the last couple of corners, it's going to make it very interesting to see exactly what will happen.
Of course, we do have a few drivers just on their outlap, so in a few, I believe the Cody Lewis, who's got his debut tonight, is the first driver coming to his flying lap. So we'll watch him closely on this first lap of the season.
Yeah, and it's going to be very interesting, especially, you know, be interesting to see what Red Bull can do, because, you know, Matty was pushing so hard at Paul Ricard last week, but, you know, I think he was slowly struggling towards the end. But with the strategies, you know, certain tyres will last a certain amount of laps, and so many other tyres will last so many other laps. But, you know, it's going to be very interesting, especially around here. It's not going to be the easiest, and traffic could be a major factor going into turns 1 and 2 and potentially turns 3 and 4 if you're not careful. But it's going to be very interesting indeed.
Of course, during the quali you need to find your spot, not to be catched by traffic, especially in those narrow corners like in the first sector here in Shanghai.
And that's the thing, it's like just watching Cody at the minute going down the straight. He's obviously going to be keeping a close eye on what he wants to do, but you know, you've got 14 and a half minutes. It's going to be very interesting to see exactly what will happen with some of the guys around here. You know, you've got people like Pascal Dutel, who's actually changed his name on here, which has kind of thrown me a bit, but we know it's him. But, you know, it's going to be very interesting as Cody sets the benchmark with a 130.6 there. So that's going to be very interesting to see exactly what he will do. So Party Trav up into second. So, you know, it's going to be very interesting. And I'll tell you what, Wojciech, who are you picking out for pole position?
Tough pick, to be honest. A lot of guys are really racy throughout the season. I think it's really hard to say, but JSP looked really strong in last race. Even in the qualifying, even in the race, especially in the race, he had really dominant performance. So perhaps he will be my pick for the Shanghai Grand Prix for the qualifying. Obviously,
yep.
We will see how the race will go. How about you, buddy?
To be honest with you, mate, it's like I say, it's going to be very hard to pick, but it could be very interesting because you've got obviously Livermore wants to try and get that extra point for the pole position. Of course he does, but I believe some of the guys such as like JSP, such as Posty will probably want to get pole position because it will try and eke out that advantage and try and push on for like what they did at Paul Ricard. But you know, it's going to be very difficult to see exactly, because not only have the guys got certain consistency, but you know it's going to be very close and probably very personal to some of the guys, you know. But at the moment, it's going to be very hard to tell. I think Cody Lewis on his debut would probably, at the moment, yeah, he's set the benchmark, but you know that might be interesting. It might be favouritism of Red Bull, it might be favouritism of Racing Point, but it's just going to be so hard to tell.
Yes, it is. I'm just, in this moment, I'm just watching Matty, who got purple in first sector, and I'm just watching that a lot of guys picking just the softs, just not really thinking about it, just go with the fastest tire. There is a difference around 1.2, 1.3 seconds between softs and mediums, so it's a pretty big difference.
Yep.
So guys, up to this moment, not really designing, not really overthinking, and just picking the fastest tire.
Well, there you go. The fastest lap has changed again. Delanga with a 1:30.4, and that's just going to show exactly what AlphaTauri want, because they want to push on, because they're in that massive fight for the constructors between themselves and obviously McLaren. But obviously, you know, with Liverpool being the sole McLaren of the series, it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what he can do. But obviously, Matty goes provisional pole position at the moment, with still 11 minutes to go with a 1:30.3. But it's going to be very close. It's going to be very hard to pick a pole position and probably the race winner at this moment in time. But from what I'm seeing, it looks like obviously the AlphaTauri and Red Bull are kind of going to be, I'm not going to say dominant force round here, because that might be the wrong thing to say, but at the moment they're setting the benchmarks. But there is going to be very interesting. There's a couple of guys sat in pit lane that haven't set a lap time as of yet, but are they going to play, are they playing it safe because they want to try and exactly get more grip into the tyres? Do they want not to get caught out in traffic? Is that what they're trying to do? But like we say, it's all to do with the strategy, and it will be very interesting.
Yes, of course. And I'm just wondering, Hoppers, do we see 29s in the lap times?
I think we could. If I'm honest, I think we could see a 129 somewhere. I'm not too sure where from, but I think we will do, because there will be some drivers that will probably push the one into the 129s. But at the moment, the way it is, it looks like it's the low 30s to 133.5 from obviously Steel BL. But who knows? You know, you've got some of the guys that are still yet to set a qualification lap, but you know, it'd be very interesting to see exactly what happens. But who knows? So we've got 9 minutes to go in qualifying here at Shanghai. It looks to me at the moment though Matty's going to probably obviously he's gone into pit lane now, but from what I'm going to see, it could be very interesting. You've got a couple of guys that haven't set a lap time yet. You know, you've got Nitro Gash that's currently going to be going out on the mediums, but you know that could easily change. Some of the guys at the moment may change their strategy before they go out on the outlap, but it will be very interesting to see exactly what happens. So let's have a look further down. Trev's on a flyer at the moment, but he's currently down on his time now. He's not purple, but he's 5th fastest at the moment in the Racing Point.
And I'm just watching Keiran, who's completing his flying lap, and he's on the mediums, currently P8. Yeah, that's a decent times for mediums.
Yeah, it looks like the mediums are going to be probably, like you say, you know, going on to a medium, and obviously you've got the softs. It's going to be very difficult, because whether the softs or the bogey tyre or the medium or even the hards, but obviously it's going to take a gamble to try and get these tyres up to racing temperature, especially during your qualifying run, especially the way you've got probably the fuel load as well. You know, you're probably going to have it, I don't know whether they got it on rich fuel load, I'm not too sure, but it'll be very interesting to see exactly what the outcome is with certain people within. And Trev's gone third fastest at the moment, just quickly going back to what he was doing, so that's put him up into third, and it's going to be very interesting to see what the rest can do within obviously their times. And there's quite a few guys that haven't set their lap times as of yet, with just under 7 minutes to go. So what's happening further down, well, further up the field? You've got JSP at the moment 7th fastest, I do apologise, with a 1:30.9 at the moment. He's obviously gunning for another podium because he got a podium out in Paul Ricard's, but you know, who knows what he can do here. But it's going to be very interesting regardless of, obviously qualifying is very key, but Cody's gone fastest with a 1:30.066. So I reckon, going back to your question about the 29th Wojciech, it may be possible because Cody's brought that lap time down, so it may be possible.
Yes, it's almost it's 600ths of this of the second. Just dividing Cody Lewis from 29s. So can someone beat it?
Oh,
that's a question for next 5 minutes.
Yes, it is. Yes, it's the next question for the next 5.5 minutes, and obviously, you know, like I say, certain people haven't gone and done lap times, and you know, is that just the way it is, or is it, or do you reckon they're going to go out with 5 minutes to go and just give it their all, or they're going to give it 100% exactly what they want, or is it just down to the strategy? I don't know. You know, I've never raced around here in a championship situation, so it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what will happen.
Yes, of course, and it's pretty much okay. We can say someone can invalidate his lap, but it's pretty much gamble to wait on the very end of the qualifying, because especially here in China, it's not really the easiest circuit, and you can easily make the mistake and invalidate your lap or not perform the best lap you can. So it's pretty much gamble to wait on at the very end.
Yeah, I suppose it is, and obviously you got Livenwall. Unfortunately, he's 10th fastest at the moment. I just see him on screen going down the straight behind Ginger Tiger. You know, he's obviously got the softs on, but he's probably going to play it safe because, yeah, he's got a title to try and think about. But also Malc being on the mediums in that Ferrari, that's 9th fastest at the moment, but it is going to be very close because you've got 4 minutes to go. We're just having a look at some of the guys. I believe Steel BL has come out of pit lane again, so I do apologise. So yeah, he's going to be wanting to try and push on for a bit. But like I say, it's going to be very interesting because you've got Daniel that's not done a lap time as of yet. Pasmar Dussel hasn't done one, and obviously Nitrogast and Posty at the moment, but that's going to be very interesting. I know Frontsun's now out on his lap. What's he going to do? Oh, there you go.
Wow, so we do have 29s. Frankson putting just 29.7. That's a really good time.
Yep. Just as I watched him go through the final turn, he looked like he was actually on the limit. He wanted to push on, and you know, I think your prediction with getting a 29 is absolute spot on. And obviously, it's just gonna show exactly what these guys are going to be capable of. But obviously, it's going to be very interesting, especially with the Alfa Romeo, because obviously they've had, I don't know how good the season's been for them. I know they've got Posty, who's the #1 driver, but you know, from a perspective, it's very interesting at this late stage for that 129.7 to actually get in the bag, especially with 2.5 minutes to go. I don't think it's going to be very easy to try and match that time, but we'll see about that. And you know, Wojciech, fair prediction, mate, on that 129. If we could get into the 29s, that is an absolute insane lap by Franson there.
Yes, of course, and I need to confess myself. I just believe in those guys because they had great pace throughout the last races, and I believe they can get 29. So it's not really. It wasn't a long shot. I was
nice.
Pretty much sure.
Well, that was a good thing to be sure of that. Obviously, you know. It's still kind of new for me here, but you know, it's amazing to see exactly how well these guys can push themselves to the absolute limit. You know, you've got, obviously, it's going to be very interesting because it's going to be, because obviously now Livingwall's been knocked down to 11th. I don't know whether he's, you know, what he's going to do from back there, but obviously it's going to be very close because obviously certain people that haven't set lap times with a minute to go, it could be very much interesting. It could be very much alive. But going into obviously watching Matty at the moment, he's going through turn number 1 and 2 at the moment. But it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what he can do with 49 seconds on the clock. Obviously he's going to be wanting to push further up, but it's going to be interesting because, you know, Alfa Romeo, Red Bull, AlphaTauri, then an Red Bull, and then the 2 Racing Points. So, you know, just go in the top 6, and it's going to be very interesting. Trev up into 4th now, so that's having Matty split between the 2 Racing Points at the moment. But from what I'm seeing, he's gone purple in Sector 2, so he could be on for a good lap time here.
So he's on his way, the yard straight and just last 2 corners for Matty. But this is really a tough one. This hairpin is really tough one.
It is. It's going to be interesting. Is he going to stay out? Yes, he is. Is he gonna cross the line? Let's see what he can do. Ooh, goes up to 2nd with a 1:30.0. So that's quite good lap time for Matty there.
And that's a really good one, but it's not enough to a pole. So
No.
Can someone beat Fran?
That'd be very interesting to see exactly what will happen. I'm just looking at Cody Lewis here, just about to go down the back straight for his final lap.
And it's pretty great form from him on the debut. Imagine this is the first race in Invictus Racing League in F3.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to pit.
He's abandoning it. Yeah, he's
abandoning it.
He probably just didn't want to.
Of course, but still, if he can hold on, and I believe he does on P3, that's a stellar job.
Yeah, that's a good lap time because I don't think many people are now completing their laps. I know Trev's just about to head into pit lane and not take the checker flag, but Cody Lewis on his debut taking 3rd place to start his first race is pretty impressive, especially when he's setting the benchmark. And then obviously Fransan got into the 129s. I think the 129 late 129s is kind of, from my point of view, it's kind of like amazing to see, because I've never seen a time like that around here, and it's obviously spectacular. And obviously past Dussel. Unfortunately, at the back of the field, that's a bit unfortunate for him because he's been doing really well as of late. But you know, anything can happen for his point of view. But let's hope during the race he will pick it up. So Fronton takes pole position, followed by Matty and Cody, and obviously Delanga and Partitrev and Ginger Tiger, followed by Reshka and Nitro Gash, and then obviously Posty and Livingwall are alongside each other on the grid. So that's going to be a bit of fireworks there, Wojciech.
Yes, of course, and as I'm looking on the grid, congratulations to the Fronton. Great lap time, it's pole position, well deserved. And I cannot help myself, but the really interesting situation is around Posty and Livingwall, especially those two guys, which Livingwall is first in the championship throughout the season. Posty is second, and both guys trying to did their qualifying lap on the mediums. So it will be really interesting to watch the difference, because softs usually can do, let's say, 8 laps here in Shanghai.
Yeah,
but the mediums last really longer.
Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting point, because the softs can only last 8 laps, and you know, some may start on the mediums, or some may just go for the softs. Obviously, you know, with softs going to be 8 laps, and then they're going to be pretty much worn to the skin and bone of the tyre, if you will, and it probably will be very interesting to see exactly what they can do. But it's going to be very interesting to make this race spice it up, and especially for Livingwall, that wants to win the title. But you know, he's going to be starting 10th place, and it's going to be very close. I'll tell you what, Wojciech, we're going to be in for a cracker this evening. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'm hoping for it. Cannot wait to the race start.
Yeah, it's going to be very close. It is going to be very interesting. You know, obviously, guys, if you're new to Invictus Racing League and you want to join, do go and check out, obviously, the website. Do go and check the Twitter, and obviously a lot of things to do within, obviously, Invictus Racing League, and obviously with commentary. You know, if you want to be a commentator, do obviously suggest. But, you know, it's down to you guys. But the racing is going to be very close. And I'll tell you what, I'm so glad that I've been part of this for quite, well, since I started commentating. But, you know, Wojciech, you've raced and now you're into the commentary box. You know a lot about how pressured it is to race. But, you know, to have you in a commentary box, I bet it feels a bit weird, though, just before we get ready for the start.
Yeah, I do really like the difference between the point of view. From the driver's point of view, I'm always nervous, mostly in qualifying, because you always, as a driver, trying to push yourself up to the limit, and on the other hand, trying not to make any mistake and just invalidate your lap or collide it with wall. And the second point of view is from the commentary box, that you have really great overview of what's happening, how guys react, where they make their mistakes, and that's stuff you cannot, or I personally, I just cannot see in when I'm driving.
Yeah, that's true, mate. You can't underestimate the obviously what the drivers can do, because obviously from a driver's point of view, okay, I've not raced in this league, but from a driver's point of view, you do feel like, you know, you're concentrating on your own battles, you're concentrating on your own positions, but when you're commentating, it opens a lot of ideas just as they're on the green flag lap, and you know, they're going to have to get a lot of heat into these tyres, and at the moment, looking at that heat haze coming out of the back end of sector 2 there, it looks like the temperature's already soaring. So it will be very interesting to see what will happen. But obviously Fronton will want to get a good start in that Alfa Romeo. So it's going to be very interesting, especially with the I believe the tyre strategy, because you've got the top 8 on softs, and then you've got a mixture in between towards the rear of the field. So you've got the likes of JSP, Steel and Keiran on the hards, and then obviously the rest on mediums, and then obviously the top 8 on pretty much the soft tyres. But you know, I believe the graphics can update itself. It's not 100% yet, which is kind of annoying for us because it's going to be very hard to tell.
Yeah, always at the start it's really swapping the positions on the graphics. So it's really messy at the start, but hopefully it will get sorted out in a few seconds. So we have all the drivers on a starting grid. Cannot wait to the race start.
No, it's gonna be very interesting, as we are about to get the 5 lights on the starting entry. As we do, they're about to go out any moment now, and who's going to lead into turn number 1? It looks to me that we have got that front end actually got turn number 1 actually nailed there. Just going back to Matty and obviously Cody, but it looks like there is going to be a lot of action packed already, so it's going to be very close and narrow to see what will happen. But obviously seeing what is going to go on, I believe at the moment Delanga actually making a move on Trev, but Trev actually closes the door and actually takes the place back. So it's going to be very interesting.
So far it's really, guys are really behaving. It's really clean start, despite these narrow turns in the start.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because I believe.
You have nitro gas, spun.
He's got going now though, but that's going to be very unfortunate. He's going to have to try and latch onto the back of the field. But just looking at Reschke at the moment, that AlphaTauri's got Livenwall and Posty behind him, but that's going to be very close. We do have obviously Fronton taking obviously fastest lap at the moment, but obviously looking at what is ongoing at the moment, it's going to be very close. I believe I'm not too sure, because obviously the graphics just playing havoc at the moment, so just bear with. But it looks like at the moment though we do have a bit of a battle on our hands between Reschke and Ginger Tiger at the moment, so it's going to be very interesting. We'll try and go up to the front of the field if we can for a moment or two, where Trev is trying to catch up onto the 2 Red Bulls here, Wojciech. Oh, what's happened to Fronton? Is he disconnected?
Oh, that's really bad luck, but hopefully he will be able to get back and jump into his car and take control.
Yeah.
Oh, this is really bad.
We'll see if he rejoins, but at the moment that will hand the lead to Matty, but it's going to be very hard because he's, he was doing so well to get that lead, and obviously, yeah, he's rejoined, so that's going to be good, but that's going to hamper him quite a bit. It's going to knock him back a bit, his confidence, as Matty goes for the overtake.
Yes, and now Fronton just got control right after he got passed by Matty. Oh my.
Yeah. And that's going to fire him up because he's going to want to try and get that place back because obviously he lost it, but it looks like Cody's also got up into second, so it's a Red Bull 1-2 at the moment.
Yeah, both Red Bulls looking really handy, isn't there?
Yep, it is, and obviously you've got Trev trying to chase down Front Sun at the moment in that Racing Point. We'll just flick to the Racing Point's point of view, if you pardon the pun, but Trev's obviously going to be on a massive charge. You know, he's doing so well at the moment, especially with Delanga behind him, but Delanga's also focusing, trying to get past that Racing Point, as well as Trev trying to eke out that advantage. So it's going to be very much interesting as we go down the back straight, and Trev has the DRS open, but Delanga gets the move done before this tight hairpin. So it looks like it's Racing Point 5th and 6th at the moment, and it's getting closer though, Wojciech.
Yeah, those Racing Points are splitting the AlphaTauris of Delange and Reshka, and all these 4 drivers going in the pack. So again, we will perhaps have, we do have the DRS enabled now, and so the DRS train in the midfield is again formed.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's going to be very interesting because, like you say, you've got the Racing Points splitting the almost been split by the AlphaTauris, but it's going to be very close because obviously Delanga is also on course for trying to win the championship, but at the moment, you know, you've got Liverpool behind in 7th, so that's going to be very interesting, and obviously posted there in obviously 8th, but going up into I believe Frontson's dropped. Has he dropped back to the field, or is it just the graphic? Looks like the graphics.
Yeah. I'm just watching it now, and it seems he's still ghosting. So he's perhaps still not connected. Wow, that's really bad luck for him.
Yeah, it looks like he's, according to what I'm seeing with the 2 Red Bulls at the moment, just concentrating on Cody and Matty at the moment. You know, they're playing a team game as Cody tries to make a move into turn number 1. He does, because he had the DRS open, which is a good move, but it's going to be very close.
He done it perfectly.
He did. It looks like, obviously, front son in that Alfa Romeo. Yeah, looks like he's not rejoined at the moment, but you know, it's kind of very difficult to judge because it says it looks like he's 3rd on track, but he's actually not. But looking at Delanga in the AlphaTauri, now going to try and catch up to the Red Bulls. You know, he's trying to get away from Trev, but obviously Trev's going to realise that front on he's actually ghosted. So it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what will happen between these guys. But at the moment it looks...
I'm really sorry, mate. I'm just watching Daniel and JSP battling in the Sector 2. They had a bit of a moment. It could end it much worse. But obviously they are just going into the DR straight. Daniel already picked it up 3 seconds time penalty. So can he make the move on JSP? But he probably will need another tryout DRS range.
Yeah, he's going to have to, isn't he? And it obviously looks like at the moment you've got Trev and Cody jumping into the pit lane, so the softs are probably getting a bit worn now, so they obviously want to try and make it to the end, or try and make it into the next round of obviously pit stops, but it's going to be very close, because I'll tell you what, the gap for first place between Matty and De Lange, yeah, okay, it's near enough now. We'll go up to them. Obviously it looks like at the moment though, looking at what I'm seeing here, Reshka's trying to, you know, try and hold off Livermore for potentially 4th place at the moment.
Yes, of course, and I checked on Cody Lewis, who got from soft to medium, so probably he's thinking that the 2-stop will be faster than the 1-stop. Oh, we do have yellow, it's Ginger Tiger, just spinning in the turn just before the DR straight.
Yeah, and looking at Livermore, just as we go on board with Reshka, Livermore actually gets past him, but Reshka's also going to try and get him, so Livermore up into 3rd place at the moment, but he's got to be careful, because it looks like to me, from what I'm seeing at the moment, it's kind of very difficult, because it looks, well, I do apologise, it's actually because the car's going into pit lane, it's thrown us, but looking at Posty there, trying to get onto the back of Reshka there.
Yeah, 3 horses battling in the front.
So that's going to be very interesting. And obviously shout out to Malc, that's brought himself up into 4th at the moment with that Ferrari there. He's obviously doing a stellar job at the moment with the medium 6 laps old at the moment.
Yeah, and he's got really good pace, isn't he?
Yeah.
On those mediums.
So it could be very interesting to see what he can do within, obviously, a couple of corners. But obviously looking at the likes of Posty and Reshka just going into the back straight at the moment, it's going to be very interesting, because obviously Reshka wants to try and get onto the back of Livermore, and Posty wants to do exactly the same. But it's going to be very interesting. There's a yellow flag and set to 3, but I believe that's just been withdrawn now, so we don't have to worry about maybe an intervention of the safety car. But it's going to be very interesting as Reshka dives into pit lane, so that's going to allow Posty to try and get up to the living wall for the time being. So it looks like the mediums at the moment, and Franzon's night's gone from bad to worse. He's left the session again, so he's probably having mechanical issues, or he's just having connection issues at the moment, so that's not really good for his evening after starting on pole position as well.
Yeah, I'm really sad for him, because obviously after this great qualifying, taking up the pole, this is really mad.
Yeah, it's going to be very annoying, especially in that cockpit of the Alfa Romeo. He's obviously, you know, he's going to be livid with himself, because he started on pole position and yeah, he was doing okay, but you know, these things do happen. But you know, he probably wanted to put on a good show for obviously his fans as well as Alfa Romeo. So you know, but Posty in the other Alfa Romeo so far at the moment trying to chase down Livermore in that McLaren. So going
I'm just checking out.
Go on.
Yes, sorry mate. I'm just checking out on De Lange, and right behind him Matty, who's closing on Trev.
Yeah.
Who's not in the RS range of anybody, so both guys, Matty and De Lange, can profit from the DRS advantage. So I'm just watching what these guys can do about it.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting, because, like you say, doing DRS range, you've got De Lange at the moment trying to get up onto Trev's back end of that racing point, trying to. Is he going to get the move done? Nah, he's obviously had the door closed, and Matty's also equally trying to match the pace as well, but it's going to be very close between the AlphaTauri and the Red Bull, and of course the racing point that's just ahead of them. So with on lap 9 out of 28 at the moment, so it's going to be very interesting, because you know there's going to be probably a couple of other drivers jumping into pit lane very shortly, but looking at the mediums at the moment, they seem to be holding up quite well.
Yes, those mediums looking really strong here. Probably the best tire, we can say, overall, because softs are, of course, they are a bit faster than the mediums, but they don't really last long. So probably the mediums is the best way to go. And I'm just watching Cody Lewis just trying to make a move on Daniel. Oh, there's been a contact. Oh, wow. This can be some damage for Cody Lewis, and that's... Wow, if yes, and he's pitting,
yeah,
so
he's
probably
pitting.
he's got damage on the front wing. Ooh, that can cost him a few positions.
Yeah, that's going to cost him quite a bit, because when we just joined just to see what was going on, it did look like a bit of wing had come off his Red Bull. So, you know, it's going to be probably going to hurt him now on his debut. But you never know, he may pick up a few bits and pieces. We've got DeLange also into pit lane. Is he going to do another stop? Is his mediums got worn now? Or is it just one of his strategies here? So it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what will happen. But at the moment, just we're going to look what's happening further up the field. You've got Malc in third place at the moment. Obviously doing a stellar job in that Ferrari. He's obviously wanting to get more points after getting into the points at Paul Ricard last week. But he's obviously going to be pushing that Ferrari to an absolute maximum limit.
Yes, and he needs to hold his back, because Keiran is trying to close in on him. He's in a DRS range already.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting, because obviously Cairns wants to try and get that Ferrari in his sights even more, looking at DRS at the moment. He was in the range, and he obviously had it open, but it wasn't... Obviously going into turn number 1, you know, DRS closes just as you get into the breaking point for turn number 1. It's a bit unfortunate, but you know, he's got plenty of other opportunities to try and get that Ferrari overtaken. So it's going to be very interesting to see what will happen. But we do have, I believe, Posty at the moment still trying to chase down Livenwall, but it's a bit, the gap isn't big enough, well, short enough to try and get the move done yet. But these mediums are actually working quite well. Cairns on the hards at the moment, trying to get reel in Malcolm's Ferrari, which will be very interesting indeed. But Malc's going to try and push on and get away from that Renault as best as he can. But he's looking likely that Cairns is using the DRS now, going into the tight hairpin. Is he going to make a move? No, he doesn't, but he locks up a break in the meantime.
Yeah, he needs to be careful not to get caught like Cody Lewis did when trying to make a move in this DRS straight, because imagine that you're going top speed and you need to brake onto like, how about 80 kilometers an hour, maybe 60. So from the top to the bottom to the lowest speed, braking point is really crucial to get it right, especially when you're trying to make an overtake.
Yeah, that's true, mate, and it's going to be very interesting to see exactly how well, but obviously with certain things,
we do have a situation. Steel just spun in sector. It was sector 1, I believe.
Sector 1, yeah.
But he seems alright.
There's yellow flag in sector 3. Is that nitro gash in sector 3? No, it isn't. But it looks like Fransan's Knight's gone bad from worse. He's actually now had a mechanical issue by the looks of it. So that's a bit of an unfortunate evening for him. After starting on pole position, going back to Malc and Keiran at the moment. Obviously Malc's trying to defend like mad from that Renault even harder. He's obviously trying to make them mediums work to his advantage, but Malc actually jumps into pit lane just as we was thinking that he was going to push on, but it looks like now that Keiran is now going to try and eke out this advantage of a lead before he takes his pit stop. So you got Livermore, Posty, and of course Daniel's retired from the session as well, so that's a bit unfortunate for the Haas. So there's a virtual safety car out at the moment, so that's going to be very interesting to see exactly what will happen. So it's not a proper safety car, it is a virtual safety car because they need to...
I just checked on Cody Lewis, who was passing Daniel, and it seems that he lost it in the very last corner. It's really tricky out there because if you go through the corner, if you just cut the corner a bit, the curb is really bumpy, so you can get, if you've gone on throttle too much and too early, you can get spin really easy, and the wall is so close. So that's an unfortunate event. It cost the race for Daniel.
Yeah, and not only has it cost the race for Daniel, but obviously with Cody now picking up I believe it's a drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car, which that's kind of now hampered his evening. You know, your debut hasn't really gone to plan, but you know, he'll probably learn from this and probably take it as a learning experience. He'll hopefully, you know, he'll realise, you know, these things do happen, but it's obviously going to be very frustrating evening for him now.
Yeah, so it can be, but we can admire him just for the qualifying in his debut.
Yeah, we can do that, and you know, don't get me wrong, he's obviously going to be wanting a bit more of a very interesting evening, but you know, he's done okay. But you know, maybe the debut's feel a bit of frustration out there, but you know, we don't know. These guys have obviously raced quite some time, but obviously when you make your debut, it can go from technically near enough hero to zero if you're not careful, but he'll pick it up and hopefully we'll see him back next week. But still got a bit of laps to go. We're on lap 14 out of 28, and obviously Trev's under a lot of pressure from Matty at the moment. So it looks like at the moment the top 7 are on the hards. That's an interesting strategy.
Yes, of course it is, and I'm just checking on a pit stops, and we do have just one car who's not being in the box, and that's Keiran's on the pole. He's pushing those hards for the longest stint they can.
Yeah, and
that's going to be interesting to watch where he will end it up after the pit stop.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what he can do, because is he going to have kind of that? But is he going to try and push them hard to the absolute limit and say, right, I can prove a point on these hards. You know, it's down to the strategy of the driver, it's down to obviously the team, but it's going to be very interesting. I'm just looking at Posty trying to get that Alfa Romeo as quick as he can up to Livingwall's McLaren, but it can be very interesting to see exactly what happened. But I believe Matty is got past Trev, and Trev's under threat from Reshka at the moment, so it will be quite interesting to see what happens come the next part of the lap.
Yes, of course it will be, and we do have a close battle for P4 actually between Trev and Matty. Trev is in DRS range, just coming onto Matty, and right behind the Trev we have Reshka, so it's battle fourth place to 6.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting, as you say. From 4th to 6th, it will be probably it's going to be very interesting, because that Red Bull at the moment of Matty is probably focusing forward, and he's obviously got Trev trying to chase him down. Looks like Trev's trying to make a move into turn number 1, but Matty's obviously trying to close the door. He's trying to learn a trick, probably what Trev did to him a couple of laps ago.
Yes, and Trev needs to be careful, because he has the shark behind him, and it's Reshka just waiting how these guys will end up. Okay, just guys, do have your battle and I will come as a winner. That's probably his opinion now. So Trev needs to be really careful about the move on Matty, because as much as he can gain, he can lose.
Yeah, exactly, and that's going to be very interesting to see exactly what will happen, because obviously, you know, Trev's going to try and push on, and he's, like you say, he's got Reshka trying to chase him down as well, but the more he tries to push onto Matty, he's going to end up losing ground to Reshka. That will catch him like within a flash, and it'll be very interesting, but at the moment it looks like, you know, it's going to be very close, because Reshka's in that DRS range, and it's going to be... He's actually...
Yes, and Trev do not have the DRS on Matty, and Reshka makes really good move.
He does.
Big lock up to the turn.
He makes the move stick though, even though he locked up, but Trev's now going to have to try and actually get repassed, but he's got DRS now, but it's going to be very close between... excuse me, between these guys, but obviously Reshka does also have the DRS open to try and get up to Matty, but you know, it's going to be very interesting between 4th, 5th and 6th at the moment. It looks like Reshka is locked up another break, which isn't going to do his tyres any good, but we'll see about that. So it's going to be very interesting, because Keiran's he's eating the living daylights out of them hards at the moment. He's obviously wanting to push on and exactly just show the hards are probably better. I'm not too sure, but like, you know, they're obviously lasting 16 laps. It's like, how is that possible?
Yeah, I believe it's still okay. You can, if you watch out for these tires, you can do even 20 laps, but it's really the top, and probably your pace will starting to drop after the, let's say, 17, 18 laps here. But yeah, this is really still, it's still okay. I believe that Keiran will pit in, let's say, in 2 laps, maybe 3 maximum.
Yeah. It'll be very interesting, and just going up to Posty at the moment. He's trying to get up to Livingwall, just go back up to the field just for a moment or two, but obviously Posty wants another victory, and he's potentially pushing on quite a bit to try and get up to Livingwall there. So obviously the Swede's trying to escape from that Alfa Romeo at the moment, and you can see Keiran's up the road at the moment trying to make the most of them hard tyres and make them actually last for probably, like say, 2 more laps. So it'd be very interesting to see what he can do. But obviously I believe Matty is still trying to escape from these guys, but it looks like Trev's still got Reshka in his sights. So it's going to be very interesting.
Yes, these two or these three with Matty still battling for from P6 to P4. But Matty is trying to get rid of them, just trying to push himself out of the DRS. Out of the DRS zone by Reshka. And I believe he does now, because Reshka has 1.1 second difference behind him.
Yeah.
And obviously 1 second is the barrier to get the DRS.
Yeah, and it's going to be very interesting because Trev's right up and close and personal to Reshka going into the hairpin, but obviously Trev doesn't make that move stick as of yet. But speaking of cans, he's jumped into pit lane, so he's obviously realised now's the time to literally get fresh tyres on and see where he can go from there. So he's done an absolute stellar job on them hards to prove a point, but he's going to have to try and work extremely more hard on them mediums to try and get back to where he was. So it's going to be very interesting indeed towards the end of this Grand Prix, with just under I believe it's 10 laps to go, I believe. I'm not too sure, but it'll be very interesting. Be very interesting to see what will happen. We're just looking at Trev at the moment trying to chase down Reshka. Reshka locks up another break. He's probably trying to push too hard now, but it will be very interesting to see what he can do, because he probably wants Matty in his sights, but in the meantime he's got to be careful because Trev will eat him and probably swallow him like a shark. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see exactly what will happen. But you know, don't get me wrong, Wojciech will be in for very close, interesting action towards the last couple of laps of this Grand Prix here at Shanghai.
Yeah, really. It's really non-stop action from these guys, and I love it. Trev is still trying to close on Reshka. It's really, you cannot afford, or Reshka cannot afford any kind of, even the smallest mistake. Because it's blink out of an eye and he will lose the position.
Yeah, I think that's what Reshka's trying not to do, is trying to focus, try and get up to Matty as well. And, you know, he's going to lose a bit of ground if he's not careful, because by the looks of it, Trev's on an absolute mission trying to get past that AlphaTauri as quick as he can to try and actually jump onto the podium if he gets past Matty. But, you know, he's got 9 laps to do it in, but it'll be very easy to see exactly what will happen. So Delanga has the fastest lap with a 1:33.1. So, you know, who knows, it'll be very interesting to see exactly what these guys can do. But at the moment Trev's still trying to get Reshka in his sights, but it's very interesting, especially up the front. You know, you've got Living Wall from Posty at the moment trying to get up to that McLaren, but according to the gap it looks like it's only 1.3 at the moment.
Yes, and so far it seems that the strategy mediums to hards paying off, because Living Wall was starting 10th, I believe. Maybe you can correct me, but I believe he started at 10th position, and obviously he had dominant performance, but he kind of easily get on the top just because of the strategy.
Yeah, and like you say, yeah, he did start 10th, and it's going to be very close, because obviously Posty and himself started 9th, but going from what I'm seeing on the map at the moment, you know, Posty, he's trying to get him, he's now 0.9 battered up to Living Wall, and he's obviously going to try and make another spectacular sort of battle, maybe after what we saw in Paul Ricard with himself and obviously JSP, but he's now going to try and catch up to Livingwall because he wants to try and dent Livingwall's championship campaign. But it's going to be very interesting with maybe 8, maybe 7 laps to go. It's going to be very close, but it's going to be very hard to see exactly what's going on. But the gap's got even bigger now going down this straight. But you know, it's going to be very interesting to see what will happen. So it looks like
perhaps another technical issue. It's Steele who left the session.
That would be very interesting to see. Going back towards Trev and Reshka, Trev's trying to actually still get this mission done, isn't he? He's trying to do the mission impossible, trying to get up to Reshka and then probably hopefully onto the back of Matty, but it's going to be very close to see what they can do.
And I'm just watching Keiran moving up to P7 in a battle with Malc. Really good job. He made the move on the DR straight up to turn 1. Can Malc bounce back? But I believe it will be really hard for him because Keiran has much fresher tire.
Yeah, and speaking of Kanzi, with his tyres, he actually locks up a brake there, which Malc almost runs into the back of him there, but obviously that will probably just be one of them. But obviously Malc's going to try and push on, but obviously Reshka's got, just going back to Reshka, he's got a 3-second penalty. That's probably going to hurt him quite a bit, but you know, it'd be very interesting to see exactly what he can do. But looking what Malc can do, but Kanzi, like you say, Kanzi's on fresher tyres, and it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what he can do to make him last and potentially push on for quite some time now, and trying to exactly get that sort of Renault powered engine, trying to push on. And Ginger Tiger now with a 3-second time penalty, but Malc's trying to make the move into the hairpin, but unfortunately didn't pay off. He opened the DRS and then obviously closed it. But it's going to be very close between the Renault and the Ferrari, but we'll see what is happening further up. So you have obviously Trev still trying to catch up to Reshka there. There's a yellow flag in, well, there's a yellow flag in sector 3, but it's now been withdrawn, so there'll be no intervention of a virtual safety car.
Yes, of course. It was Steele. Luckily he didn't collide with any wall or anyone else, but got himself spun just before the DR straight. And it's really a tricky corner. We did have a few situations here. You can get caught easily because you're trying to get the best exit possible, because you're up for the DR straight, especially when you're closing on someone, and you can be too eager on the throttle and get spun really easy. And Steele just retiring the race.
So that's going to be
after kind of poor session.
Yeah, and that's going to be very interesting. Whether obviously he's now obviously retired, but you know, it was going to be heart in the mouth moment. I thought there was going to be a safety car, but there is another yellow flag situation. But it looks like Cairns has got away up into 6th place. He's now got past his teammate JSP, which has now got Malc trying to chase him down. But that's going to be very interesting, because obviously Cairns is going to be on a massive charge with round about 5 or 4 laps to go. It will be probably that Renault, especially he left it late to, well, not late, but he left it to sort of end of lap 18 to get onto the mediums there. But it's going to be very interesting.
Yes, and Keiran's looking really good because he has the most fresh tires on the grid. coming onto to solve maybe the mystery between Trev and Reshka, because these guys are still Trev is still holding on Reshka in the DRS range, but the worries can be starting now, because Keiran is on a really great stint on those mediums, and he can come on the Trev really quickly.
Yeah, he could do, and like you say, with them mediums only being 4 laps old now, it's going to be very interesting to see what he can do towards the end of the race. And obviously looking back, obviously Malc's got past JSP for 7th, just while we're looking at Trevor and Reshka's battle, but it's obviously Keiran's could be the one to watch here. He's obviously trying to push up, and he's obviously doing a stellar job at the moment. He's obviously had that strategy probably thought, well, it's paid off, and it may pay off come the end of the race, but it's going to be very interesting. I believe at the moment Trev's still trying to get up to Reshka's AlphaTauri, but in the meantime Reshka's also trying to catch up to Matty in the Red Bull, by the looks of it, according to what we're seeing here.
Yeah, Reshka just did few quicker laps and was able to get on the back of Matty into the DRS range. Obviously he has some time penalty as he picked it up. I believe that's 3 seconds. This can cost him podium.
He could do, and rightly so, and he's obviously, yeah, he's got the DRS, but you know, it's going to be very interesting, because looking what's going to happen, he's going to try and make a move on the outside of Matty, which he actually does, but Matty closes the door slightly, but Reshka's going to have the inside now, because he's now got the move done. But this could potentially...
Great move on the outside. Sorry, mate.
That's alright. So basically now Reshka's now going to obviously try and push on and trying to get that 3 seconds back, otherwise it will cost him his yellow flag in sector 3.
Ooh, and it's past moi du sel, or IRL PS. And that's again, I believe... Oh sorry, that's the hairpin after the DRS straight.
Yeah, he's got going now though, but that would have been a bit unfortunate. I believe Cody and DeLanga just going back to them for a moment or two. They're actually almost having a battle themselves. So not only have you got Red Bull and AlphaTauri having a battle for 3rd and 4th, you've also got it for 11th and 12th, just outside the points. But it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what will happen with 2 laps to go.
Yeah, and I'm just checking on past moi du sel, who just had the incident in the penultimate turn, and it seems he had some front wing damage. It's not really worth to go to the pits 2 laps before the end, but that's gonna be really difficult to hold, especially Cody, Lois, DeLange back. Yeah.
And just going back up to the battle for the last spot on the podium, with two laps to go. You've got Matty still trying to aim for that podium. He's obviously trying to get Reshka in his sights, and he's trying to push on quite a bit. But it's going to be very interesting, because obviously with Reshka's 3-second penalty, that is probably going to haunt him, and he's going to probably potentially knock him back down the field, but well, sort of mid-range. But obviously Matty's going to try and push anyway to actually just get on the podium, because he probably knows that Reshka's got that penalty. But it could be very interesting to see exactly what will happen. But it's going to be very interesting with a lap to go. So it's going to be very amazing, because Trev's obviously trying to catch up to these guys, but you know, Trev's tyres are about 20 laps old, so it's going to be very interesting to see what he can do, whether he can push back up and see if he can get these guys towards the end of the race. But obviously Matty's wanting to try and get that podium.
Yes, and he probably just to be sure, he probably knows about the time penalty on Reshka, so I believe he will not risk any contact and just go to the end as it is.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what will happen. But just looking at obviously what's going to try and happen, but it looks like Livermore's actually going to try and take victory. I believe if he wins, you know, and the rest do worse, I'm not too sure. But is he going to have the title wrapped up? It's going to be very hard to tell at the moment, but we shall see. But there is a sort of, I believe Nitro Gash has had a bit of a mistake. What he's got going again. Sounds like Posty's running on fumes at the moment. But luckily it's the end of the race. But going up to Livermore, he's done a stellar job from 10th place on the grid to actually now take another well-deserved victory. And he's probably going to be happy with that, considering he got third at Paul Ricard. So he's about to cross the line and take a well-deserved victory here in Shanghai, followed by Posty in second. I believe with the way things are going at the moment though, that Reshka's time penalty is going to sadly cost him. But it will be very interesting. Yes, it does. So Matty joins the podium. So Trev will come home in fourth. That's a bit unfortunate for Reshka. And then you've got Cairns in sixth. What a stellar drive though, to be fair, with obviously racing them hard for quite some time and then to get sixth. And then obviously Malc in eighth, followed by Ginger Tiger and Cody Lewis, despite having a bit of an up and down race this evening on his debut in 7th place, and then obviously followed by Delanga, and then obviously Plasmar Dussel now coming through the last two turns to come and take 12th place, and then obviously Nitro Gash in 13th. So Wojciech, that was an absolute fantastic race, wasn't it?
Great one. I really enjoyed that, and stellar job from Posty and Living Wall, and even Matty, who's been really battling with those guys around him for let's say half of the race. And maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, as we saw, the driver of the day, which is Living Wall, I believe he will have enough points to win the championship. We will get this confirmed, but I believe it's a done thing.
Yeah, I reckon he's had enough points, but we will double check. But yeah, I think he's got the championship sewn up for the F3 championship. So hopefully we'll get the top three into the commentary box to come and talk to us regarding their race thoughts. But I will just double check exactly what will happen for yeah, it sounds like he's won it. Yeah, so we'll get the top three into the comms room. So it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what will happen. But from 10th on the grid to take a victory, and then obviously do a lot of things, it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what will happen. So we will have hopefully the top three in from the podium. I'll tell you what, Wojciech, is the championship's now been sewn up, so in Spain and Singapore, Living Wall can afford to just relax and just see what he can do from there.
Yeah, I believe he will get the pressure off his back and just enjoy the racing in those wonderful tracks, which Spain and Singapore definitely is.
Yep. So it's going to be very interesting, and I believe Living Wall is actually joined us in the commentary box. And I tell you what, mate, congratulations on not just a stellar win from 10th place on the grid, but also congratulations on winning the F3 Championship. How does it feel?
Oh, thanks, mate. It's a real relief, actually. It's been a great season so far. So nice to finish it on top.
Yeah, of course. And as I say, you finished. Well, you started 10th, and to get up into first, I tried to figure out exactly what your strategy was going to be from a commentator's point of view, but talk us through exactly how you were playing it, lap by lap, and how you felt the tyres were going. And I'm interested to hear your thoughts with that.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure actually about what strategy to choose before the race. I kind of went with it depending on what times people had done already in the end of the quali session. So I tried to go with the mediums. I didn't go as fast as I hoped, but yeah, I knew it was a better tire, so to say. So I knew I was gonna be strong in the race with my pace.
Yeah.
So from there, I knew I had Posty around me already at the start. So I just tried to keep ahead of him and trying to finish before him, basically. And when we got out of the pit stop, the first pit stop, and we were ahead, I knew we had much fresher tire than the guys behind. So then it was just trying to keep him behind, basically.
Yeah, and like you say, you're trying to keep Posty behind, but has he been the fiercest rival this season for you to literally try and escape every race? Because Paul Ricard last week, he won and you finished third, if I remember rightly, but has he been the toughest guy to try and beat this season?
Well, especially the last 3 races, I think he really picked up his speed, and his results showed that as well. I mean, I think he had some bad luck also in the start, but like these last 3 races, he's been really fast. So I really have to be on edge all the time just to try to. Didn't even manage to do that the last 2 races before this, so it felt really good to finally get on top again.
Fantastic, and I believe Wojciech will have a few questions for you, and then, it'd be interesting to see what Wojciech has to ask you.
Yes, first of all, buddy, congratulations to the win on Shanghai Grand Prix, and of course to the championship win as well. It's been a great season. Of course, I joined in a half, but in the second half you put a massive effort. I'm just seeing we have just 2 races in front of you. A bit pressure, I believe you just got off from the winning the championship, but we still have the constructors. How do you feel about the constructors?
It's still a tight race, I'd say. I think both, especially with the AlphaTauri, but I think also the Alfa Romeo has been pretty close now. So I mean, I think I had a pretty good result today because I think I scored more than AlphaTauri, if I saw it correctly afterwards. But hey, it's gonna be a close run at the table finish line. I mean, as for now, I'm still alone in the team, so I gotta try to stay ahead of those guys to finish and get more points.
Of course, so hopefully you'll be delivering the wins even in the last 2 races.
Yeah, I won't back off.
So then we have Posty that finished second. Congratulations on another stellar drive. but obviously you started ninth. Was that an issue in qualifying, or was it just playing it easy because you knew you had to technically try and catch up to Liverpool?
Hey, thank you. No, it was actually the strategy. I wanted to go mediums to hards. I didn't believe I had the pace to go for a top spot on qualifying and then make a soft to hard. So I just said I'm going to do mediums to hards. I believe I had a great starting on the grid on the 9th place. And it proved like the strategy actually worked for me, and leaving wall was a great race. It was fun. I had a couple of mistakes that took me out of the DRS zone from leaving wall, and then it was really difficult to catch up and get it again. So great race from leaving wall. He really deserved the championship.
That's a fair point, and from what I've seen from the commentary box, is like you were saying, you lost a couple of ranges in the DRS. You know, do you reckon if you had the range, do you reckon you would have catched him?
I had him on DRS range for, I believe, like 2 laps, and I was getting really close. And I believe that I could manage to stay on the DRS zone and then probably just save some ERS to make a battle at the end and probably get the first place. But I don't know. I don't know if I got nervous or what happened, but I had a couple of mistakes that definitely ruined my chances.
Well, mate, I'll hand you over to Wojciech, who will chuck you a couple of questions, but best of luck for Spain and obviously Singapore next time out, guys.
Thank you, mate.
No problem.
Yes, of course. Even congratulations from me to the 2nd place. It was a great drive. As you mentioned, you've been hanging right behind the living wall and doing really consistent pace. I was just, we were just talking with Hoppers about not the DRS, but the ERS deployment, which was really talking point, and for some guys, it was a really pain point during the race in China. Can you walk us through? Because it seems from the race that few drivers had some problems with the ERS deployment just to manage it. How was it by you?
Yeah, that's true. I felt it was really hard to save ERS on this race. I deployed it a lot at the beginning of the race just to try and catch Living Wall off before our pace stop, just to try and get to his DRS range, but I couldn't make it. Living Wall was just like so consistent on this race, so whenever I made just a tiny mistake, I had to use my ERS to try and don't fall too much behind. So yeah, it was difficult at the end of the race. I didn't have much, so I didn't have that weapon to try and catch Living Wall. But I believe he probably had the same issue because we were doing like the interval wasn't increasing by so much. We were very consistent with each other, so I don't feel like he had an advantage on ERS. He was just really consistent.
Well, yes, I can imagine that. Just the last question, mate. We do have last 2 races, which is Spain and Singapore. Which of those 2 tracks is, or what you expecting from you on these tracks?
It's actually a track that I really like. I feel like I do really well on that track. I didn't feel as confident on China as I feel on Spain, so that's really positive for me. But then on Singapore, that's a track that I've driven just a couple of times because I don't like it. I don't really do good at it, so I don't know. I'll have to practice for Singapore to see where I'm at and hopefully do a couple of great races for the end.
Nice one. Best of luck, mate, and congratulations again to the 2nd place.
Thank you, man.
I believe Matty's had some technical difficulties, so he will not be joining us for the 3rd place interviews. But guys, thank you for joining us in the commentary box. It has been an absolute pleasure this evening, and just before we close the stream, I'm going to congratulate yet again Live and War for a stellar drive this season, and you know, everything is going to be very exciting for the last 2 races of the season at Spain and obviously Singapore. But I'll tell you what, guys, if you want to stay while we just have a bit of a brief catch up, you're more than welcome to, but if you don't, then you're more than welcome to leave. But Wojciech, it is now, the title's now been decided. It is going to just be all to play for, and like we say, we've still got AlphaTauri and McLaren in the constructors.